All right, welcome back to the channel. Shawn Porter says Keith Thurman is not the same fighter that he was when he fought him last time. Let's talk about whether that's true, because I don't know if it is, but let's talk about that and what it means in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, this portion of our daily conversation, we'll talk about Shawn Showtime Porter and Keith One-Time Thurman. I never realized that they both Showtime and One Time. I didn't realize they both had time in their name until I said that. But Keith Thurman is the former WBA, former WBC welterweight champion of the world. Excuse me, man. I always get these text messages. Former world champions of the world. Also, you have Shawn Porter, who is also the former WBC champion and a former IBF champion. Both of them are coming off of losses against the two of the three best welterweights, or at least two of the three champions in the world, that being an Errol Spence Jr. loss for Shawn Porter and a Manny Pacquiao loss for Keith Thurman. So Keith Thurman, so Shawn Porter, who did a podcast for PBC, said that he believes that Keith One-Time Thurman is not the same fighter that he was when Shawn Porter fought him. Now, why would he say that? Obvious reasons are the fact that he lost. Okay, it's obvious. Obvious reason is that he lost. He lost to Manny Pacquiao in his last fight. In the fight before that, he looked less than stellar in a win against Josecito Lopez. Now, when Shawn Porter fought Keith Thurman, I don't think at the time, I think they might have actually been fighting for the WBC belt. Maybe they were fighting for the WBC belt. But regardless, at that time, Keith Thurman was considered the best welterweight on the planet at the time. That was before Errol Spence Jr. really started making his strides with his win over Kell Brook. I do believe that was before that point in time, because it was at least 2 years since Keith Thurman had defended a title. That would move that sometime in like 2016. Yeah, that was a year before Errol Spence Jr. won his title, against Kell Brook. So Keith Thurman was the man in the welterweight division, the One-Time Thurman. And actually on the way up, Keith Thurman is like a transition fighter between the time of, because he was there fighting when Manny Pacquiao, during the time that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather Jr. were having their thing, where they were fighting different fighters leading into, as a lead up into the fight that those guys happened. But once Floyd Mayweather retired, and after Manny Pacquiao lost to Floyd Mayweather, after that point in time, Keith Thurman became the man. I was a huge fan of Keith Thurman. There was a lot of people that were big time fans of Keith Thurman, believed that Keith Thurman had the ability to beat a Manny Pacquiao. Some people thought at the time that he had the ability to beat excuse me, man, my phone, I got to turn this off in the middle of the video. Some people believe that he had the ability to beat Floyd Mayweather Jr. A lot of people at the time had asked me who I thought would win between the fight, those two. And I was like, well, man, maybe right at this moment, Floyd Mayweather, but if he gets a little bit longer in the tooth, I would go with Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman can not only knock people out early in his career as a knockout artist. As he got a championship belt, it became he was getting more and more decision wins, and he would the way that he would go about it, he's to land big, strong shots in the early part of the fight. And then towards the second half of the fight, if he couldn't really get the guy out and it became a boxing match, he would just stick move, fight from the outside and beat guys with his athleticism and his skills. So he was definitely a top-notch welterweight and considered the top welterweight at the time. Now we're moving into a situation now where he had his injuries. He comes back. He fights Josecito Lopez. He loses to Manny Pacquiao. And you know how the world is. It's a what have you done for me? What have you done for me? Layoff. You know, what have you done for me? Layoff. What have you done for me lately type of situation. And, you know, that layoff really didn't help either because he lost a lot of momentum with people who really interpreted his layoff as a duck. So, you know, he's not the same. The argument could be made that he's not the same fighter inside the ring, but he's also not the same fighter outside of the ring because of the perception about Keith Thurman having ducked Errol Spence Jr. Now, how does that relate to Shawn Porter? Shawn Porter is somebody I think that a fight between a rematch between he and Keith Thurman is a very viable option. Now, while Keith Thurman has definitely dropped off and he's not the level, he doesn't have the level of respect that he had in the welterweight division before, he's still a very, very good fighter. I think a lot of people miss in the fact with Josecito Lopez that if Keith Thurman had more time in more fights and had been steady, the second half of the fight with Josecito Lopez probably would have went a lot differently, and he might have been able to get Josecito Lopez out of there. The fight with Manny Pacquiao, I think people really do underestimate how well he fought against Manny Pacquiao, who's a very difficult fighter, man. Who's a very difficult fighter. There was no VADA testing. Now, don't get mad at me, Manny Pacquiao fans. It does seem very, very odd that there would be not VADA testing because it's the WBC is the VADA clean boxing program. But, you know, it's Manny Pacquiao, man. It's Manny Pacquiao. It's going to be tough for him to get a decision. I thought that he fought Manny Pacquiao very well. He made Manny Pacquiao look old, landed some very hard flush shots on Manny Pacquiao. But Manny Pacquiao's Manny Pacquiao. He did a lot of things in that fight, you know, staying busy, being more active during the rounds, you know, and he pulled out some vet type of moves to pull that fight off. And also have to say, pulled off one of the nastier body shots that I've seen in a while, man. He folded Keith Thurman like a lawn chair, man. That was bananas. But that also, the inability to take shots to the body for Keith Thurman might be a result of that layoff. You know, get back in the gym, do his abs, get his body right, so maybe he can take body shots better. But anyway, Keith Thurman is still I believe is still a top level welterweight, and one that I would love to see fight Shawn Porter again. Now, Shawn Porter is basically in the same situation as Keith Thurman. He is also lost to Errol Spence Jr. He's not in a situation where people are consider him to be like a real big, a big money earner, a big draw. So I think that a rematch between the two of those guys would be a great fight, and it's probably one of the more viable fights for those guys. I don't think Keith Thurman is going to get a shot with Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford or a rematch with Manny Pacquiao. It's obvious that Terrence Crawford doesn't want to fight Shawn Porter again. Errol Spence Jr. is on to either Danny Garcia or Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao's talking about Mikey Garcia. And I think Bob Arum is blowing smoke here, and Terrence Crawford as of late. At least that's the idea that Bob Arum is pushing, is out there pushing. There's just not a lot of fights for Keith Thurman or Shawn Porter, and I think a rematch between those guys would be excellent. And whoever won that rematch would immediately be, I would put him as the number 2, the number 3 or number 4. Probably the number 4, number 5 welterweight, but really be in a position again to get a championship shot. I think Keith Thurman is going to have to become a mandatory for somebody in order to get a shot. He's either going to have to become a mandatory in the WBO. Keith Thurman called the WBO WB no, because don't nobody want the belt, so he's not going to go that route. But I don't know if there's a WBA mandatory yet for Manny Pacquiao. but he just fought for the WBA title, so that might be difficult to pull off. Or he needs to go through the IBF rankings and get into that, get to be an IBF or WBC mandatory, and or whatever the behind the scenes stuff that he needs to do to push that. He should probably do it, but I don't think that Keith Thurman, although he might not be the same fighter that he was 3 years ago, I definitely think Keith Thurman has the skill set and the ability on a really good day to give anybody in the welterweight division a lot of problems. I would love if that could start first with Shawn Porter, because Shawn Porter doesn't really have a fight coming up. I don't necessarily want to see Keith Thurman in there with Yordenis Ugas yet, because Yordenis Ugas is somebody that is a very hard body puncher. So I'd like to see maybe Keith Thurman get maybe one more fight before he got in there with Ugas. But hey, if he got in there with that, I would take that as well. So, the long and the short of it is, for my opinion, no, Keith Thurman is probably not the same fighter that he was. However, he's more than good enough, provided that he gets his hunger back. His hunger for training, his hunger to prove that he's better than somebody, not just the hunger for money, but the hunger to really prove that he's the best, and he can really get his mind into the sport and all that. Then I think he has a chance to become a welterweight champion again, and he's got an outside chance to beat anybody in the welterweight division. But that's just what I think. You let me know what you think, and with that, I'm out. Peace.